Good morning, year 8, Mr. O'Shea here, and today we're going to continue with our geography topic from last term. So if you can remember, through the distance learning last term, we were looking at the topic of international development. So today we're going to look at the key question of how and why do people try to escape from poverty. So that was going to be your title. And there's going to be two key terms that you're going to need to know. First one, refugee. Second one, economic migrant. So what I would like you to do now, please put the key question as your title, and please put down the key terms, refugee and migrant, economic migrant, and do your best. What do you think these two words mean? So pause the video and please try to complete this. Okay, so maybe you got this already. If not, you're going to have to write down. A refugee is somebody who has been forced to leave their home, to leave their city or country. And an economic migrant is somebody who has chosen to leave the place where they live so that they can improve their lives in a different country or a different city. So, you're going to have a starter activity now, a bit of a recap after the half term. Last half term, we finished by looking at how the development gap, so the gap between rich countries and poor countries, how that gap has grown, so where the gap has come from. The final activities last term, you were looking at 6 reasons for this gap. So what I would like you to do, I would like you to please list in your book these 6 reasons with a short explanation of each one. So I want you to pause the video and I want you to write down the 6 reasons we looked at for the development gap with a quick 1 or 2 sentence explanation of each. So you can pause the video now and do that. Okay, perfect. So what you should have, and again, here's an image showing inequality. The first reason we had, historical reasons. So we have historical reasons for development gaps. They could be to do with conflicts in the past, empire, this kind of thing. So if your country was rich in the past, if your country had an empire, it's more likely that it's going to be a developed country today. If you were one of the countries that was dominated by a different country, you're going to have less of a development. Second one, geographical reasons. So there are gaps in development due to the country's geographical features. If you don't have lots of rivers, if you don't have good land for farming, if it's too hot or too cold, it's going to be less developed. Health and education. If your population doesn't have good hospitals, if there's no doctors, if there aren't good schools to educate people, you're going to have less development. Conflict and corruption. If you're in a country where there is a lot of violence, where there is a bad government who is stealing the money of the people, or if there are wars, it's going to be less developed. Relying on few exports. So exports, if you remember, that's when a country sells something to another country. And this factor means relying on few exports. They rely on just one product. For example, let's say tobacco. They grow just tobacco. And what this means is if there is a change in demand for tobacco, if other countries stop using tobacco, if another country decides they can grow tobacco better, it means that they're going to lose money. And lack of industry. If a country doesn't have factories, if it doesn't have industry, if it relies only on farms and agriculture, it's going to be less developed. So that's a quick recap of the reasons for the development growth. What you're going to do today, I have attached the pages 80 and 81 from the geography book. I want you to have a read through a letter on page 80. This is a story about a man called Seydou, and he is from Mali, which is in this part of the map where I am moving the arrow. So Seydou, he decides that he is going to migrate from Mali to Europe. And he's going to try to do that by entering this island in Italy where the cursor is. I want you to read the story about Seydou and his journey from Mali through the Sahara Desert and across the Mediterranean Sea. I want you to answer the questions on page 81 about his journey. So you're going to read the letter on page 80 and answer the questions on page 81 about this journey. You can pause the video and you can do that now. Okay, so after looking at Seydou's journey, you can see it's very dangerous for people to migrate across the desert and then across the sea. We're seeing many deaths every year. There are many, many deaths. And in this case, I've got the figures here from a couple of years ago to 2017. And what we're seeing are the numbers of people dying. So if we take a look at this example, the migrants going to Italy, we see 5,457 made it to Italy, but 337 died on the way there. And for Spain, 105 died. And these are just the ones we know about. If you remember from your history class last term, there is also slavery, modern slavery, where, especially in North Africa, a lot of these migrants are taken as slaves and they're sold into a life of labor. So this brings up the question, why do people take this risk? I'd like you to pause the video now, and I'd like you to take a moment, write down as many reasons as you can as to why people risk their lives to move countries. Okay, so let's compare what you've got to my 4 points. Why do people risk their lives to move countries? Firstly, we have economic migration. These are people who are moving to find work or follow a career path. So if you're going to leave your country due to poverty, due to wanting more money, you're an economic migrant and you believe that the risk of maybe death is worth the reward of perhaps having a better life for you and your family. Second one, social migration. This is moving somewhere for a better quality of life. So in this case, you want to move somewhere where there are maybe more schools, more hospitals, better services. So that will be a reason. Political migration. This is probably the one you see in the news the most. This is moving due to political persecution or war. So if it's not safe for you where you live, it's a case of maybe dying in your country or taking a risk to move somewhere else. And environmental. This is to include natural disasters. So if you live somewhere where there are hurricanes, droughts, floods, if there's a lot of pollution, you're going to maybe risk your life to move somewhere where this isn't a danger. So these are the 4 main reasons why people take this risk. What I would like you to do now, I would like you to pick 2, at least 2, you can do all 4 if you like, but I want at least 2 of these factors, and I want you to research online and find some countries where people are taking these risks. So can you find an example of a country where people are migrating due to political reasons? So is there anywhere in the world people are escaping war? What about environmental? Is there anywhere in the world today where people are leaving due to natural disasters or pollution? Or where are the economic migrants? So where are people moving due to money? So please pause the video and do that now. Okay, great. So final part, reflection for the class. I want you to pick 2 questions from the box. And at the bottom of the page in red pen, I'd like you to answer these questions about what you've learned today. So pick 2 questions, any 2 boxes, and answer that about what you've learned today with international development and poverty. Thank you, and I will speak to you next class.